everybody, I am Victoria Baylor, and it is an honor and pleasure to be hanging out with Emra today in my studio. Um, I don't even know where to begin, what to talk about, fulfilling your dream, following your dream. But it's been an interesting road to lead me to where I am today. And all I can say is definitely nothing but the grace of God, and that purpose is definitely indeed a real thing. And that if you really entrust your life and your dreams and goals to God's purpose, it's amazing how it unfolds and it unwinds, but it sometimes does it in a way that you don't quite expect. And I guess where I'm coming from is my background is in microbial ecology research. And I have a degree from, Savannah State University in marine science. And I would have never thunk that I would have jumped into the business arena doing personal branding. But I think God's a little bit wiser and smarter than myself. And, with a little bit of kicking and screaming, I found myself here. I love the premise behind the Hope Walk and how it talks about and how Emra is so devoted to the cause of helping people with dealing with depression and anxiety. And I'm not going to sit here and paint a picture to you. I like to be really real with mine that, being on a trajectory and a path to finding and figuring out where you're supposed to be is the easiest thing to figure out. I think I spent one entire summer totally just probably ticking the Lord off, asking him, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Literally, I did that like for the entire summer. I'm sure I drove him crazy. But he's so patient and he's so diligent, and he helped align and just lay out that path. So what's interesting is what I like to do in personal branding is I like to connect people not only to other people, but I like to connect them to themselves. I find out that's one of the biggest places where we're void of understanding is, who am I as a person? What do I have to offer? What's my unique values? What's my mission in life? And oftentimes I do find that anxiety and depression does really stem out of the answers to those questions. And it's so easy to get overwhelmed when you don't know. And I think for me, I'm not really a control freak, maybe just a little. But my problem was being content with not knowing and just letting the plans unfold when they're supposed to unfold. And that is the hardest thing I think we all can testify and say it is to do. But in my line of work, again, shifting back to the personal branding, what I find is interesting is that I believe in life we all have clues to who we are and what we're supposed to be deeply embedded in us. And half the time they're very obvious to us, but then they're kind of not obvious because we spend our time like chasing after other ideas, trying to be what other people want us to be, trying to, getting distracted by what other people are doing. But what's interesting is if we really kind of tap into, and this is why I love my job, and I didn't know I was going to love my job so much, but I am completely qualified to do my job. It's my God-given gift. I love to dig beneath the surface and help people realize, like, what is your genius? What are you fantastic at doing? What do you do that no one else does? And I find that in my problem in life is that I always belittled I didn't pay attention to the things I did. I thought everybody could do it. And I realized that just as unique as our fingerprint is, and if God was smart enough to give us all one that was completely unidentical to anybody else's and completely unique, he did the same thing with our purpose. So, when you do feel that kind of anxiousness, that kind of depression, I want you to just kind of take a breath and breathe and just realize that as you stay on path and you stay on target, that in due time things will unfold. And I wouldn't have thought after I spent 15 years in research science. So I worked at the Skidaway Institute of Oceanography, which is located on Skidaway Island. I got my degree in we won't talk about and then I finished school in but I spent 15 years in research and I completely loved it. But at some point I started to feel that wasn't exactly where I was supposed to continually be. And I don't know about y'all. Y'all probably are better saints and people than I am. But how many have dragged around like a dead cat? That's what I feel like I did with my career. I kind of like just dragged it around. I knew it was over, but I was just too scared to try to figure out what am I going to do next. I knew since I was 8 I wanted to be a marine biologist. And I was like, I'm not being true to myself. And then like God just gave me the kick in the butt. She is like the best parent ever. And at the same time, I had a business doing custom dressmaking and sewing. So I made these beautiful elaborate gowns. I worked with national ballet companies to produce ballet costumes. And the whole time I'm doing all this stuff, I'm like, it's no big deal. I mean, anybody can do this. I mean, it sounds really sad, right? But it's amazing how many of us really diminish our talent. So trust me when I say I understand, if you are walking that path right now, I completely understand what it's like to be fully talented, fully skilled, and then just not make those connections. So fast forward about 3 years, 5 years into entrepreneurship, I feel like this is definitely where God's called me. And what's interesting about it is, and this is where sometimes we have to let time run its course, and we have to be patient with the process. What's interesting is I use both parts of my skill set to do what I do today. And if you had asked me a few years back, would I would use the analytical parts of my mind, so I'm a very analytical, kind of logical person, I would use that in personal branding so I could analyze people, see what they need, help them figure out how to connect, whether it's with their communication skills, whether it's with how they brand themselves and show up online, how they behave and even use their body language to better connect with people versus repelling people, and all these other various components of my blueprint program when it comes to personal branding. If I had to, okay, I just completely lost my thought for a second, but that happens. But if I had to think about how all that connected, what I was making the point is to use my background in research and to use my sewing capabilities to understand the human form and know what clothing actually looks good on certain body types and mesh that all together to create a personal branding business that helps people actually identify who they are. That is the true phenomenal process that started, and it's one that I'm happy to be a part of. So if you're struggling today, I said all that to say is that be encouraged, hang in there, just breathe. Oftentimes everything isn't up to you. Sometimes it just takes time for the plans to be outlined. So just follow the path, stay true, stay open, and it will all come clear.